Hello students, welcome back to class. In our previous class we looked at the topic the use of drug and drugs abuse. In this lesson we're going to be looking at the topic effects of drugs and drug abuse. Basically under this topic we're going to be looking at the signs and symptoms of drug abuse. We shall examine the following. One is alcohol and nicotine abusers are usually stench of alcohol. What that means is that people who abuse alcohol or nicotine, they are usually having a particular offensive odor that come out amidst them or around them, that makes it very known to everyone that these persons are into drugs. Depression is another thing that you see commonly with such people. They are always in a state of mind where they are not sure of what they want to do. They often at times feel very bad and they don't even know why. And often at times they are not happy, most especially when they don't have money to buy those drugs that they need, that they always take, because they are not living on drugs. Number 3 is the desire to be alone in the family. Most of the time they want to be alone because their family members are not in support of what they do, and because they know whenever they want to do it, these family members of theirs will stand in their way. So they will do all they can to just be alone, so they will continue to indulge in that activities of taking drugs. Another one is mood swing. Mood swing in the sense that they could be happy this time, within a few minutes they are hungry and they are wanting to do something terrible and all of that. So they are not having a constant mood, and that is another thing that you see around such people that abuse drugs. Another one is violence. They are always wanting to commit violence. They are always violent in their approach to things, and they can be hungry at any instant and they want to do something very dangerous. Another one is constant change of friends and associates. They are not they don't keep friends. They are always changing friends, most especially because when they meet up with other persons who take the same drugs as they do, they want to make friends immediately with such a person so they can continue to take the drugs together. Another one is secretiveness. They are very secretive. They don't want people to know what they do, because they want to find a way to continue indulging in that drug that they are already taking. Another one is failure to perform duties at home. Most of the time what they are expected to do at home, they won't be forthcoming to meet up to doing them, and so on and so forth. The same thing is a poor performance at work or at school. For the ones who are already working, they won't be able to concentrate to do what is needed or what they are employed for. For those who are already at school, they won't also be able to concentrate on their studies. That will affect everything about what they do in school, and as such their performance will become very poor. Another one is disobedient to authority, such as parents, teachers, older relatives, etc. They will also become very disobedient. They won't take instruction. They won't allow you give them one, and if you give them one, they won't want to obey or want to do what is expected of them. Another one we're going to be looking at here is behaviors exhibited by drugs addicts. Since drugs changes the normal functioning of the body and mind, people who have become addicted to drugs behave in unusual ways or ways considered inappropriate by society. We shall examine some of this behavior. One is some commit suicide, perhaps of frustration. Some of them end up committing suicide because they are frustrated, maybe because they could not continue affording the drugs that they are already involved in, so they feel like there's no more hope and there's no more reason for living. Others, they commit crimes such as robbery, rape, child abuse, courtesan, kidnapping. They also easily get involved in cult activities. So others, they end up committing one crime or the other, which can, put them in prison or in jail. All of these are what you see, behaviors that are common with people who abuse drugs. They could also be very depressed for reasons which are not obvious. Like we earlier said, they could just be in a particular state that is not a good one, and they are not talking to anybody. They are not also wanting anybody to know why they are in that state, because they don't want to open up, because they are scared you might not accept them because of who they have become. Then they also get into fight very easily and often. Get into fight very easily and often the time get themselves injured, get themselves battered by weapons, sometimes breaking of bottles and so on and so forth. They could also become so unreasonable that people would avoid them altogether. They can become very unreasonable that people will begin to avoid them because of the way they think and behave. Some simply leave school without being expelled. Some drop out very close to the final year. So sometimes some of them will just get tired of schooling. They might just stop going to school, even when they've not been expelled, even when they've not been stopped from coming to school. Some of them just drop out when they are almost in their final year, because their mind is now under the control of the drugs that they are taking. So they don't think straight. So you wouldn't expect them to behave straight. And these are also one of those behaviors that is expected, or that you see that is common with people who abuse drugs. And that is why it is advisable that young ones should stay away from drugs. If you must take drugs when you are sick, you must seek the doctor's prescription and ensure that you keep with that prescription. Another one we'll look at here is adverse effect of drugs and drug abuse, which are considered the effect on the individual, the family, and society in general. We'll first of all look at what the drugs does on the individual. First of all is that it makes them to become dependence or addiction. Those who take drugs often the time cannot cater for themselves. They become dependent on their relatives. Because of the situation they find themselves, they might not even be able to work to earn money to be able to take care of themselves. And as such, they start depending on those who are around them, either their mother or father or brothers or sister. Another one is mental disorder. They could easily run mad. They could become very crazy in their approach and behavior. So all of these are some of the effects on the individual who is constantly abusing drugs. Another one is health. They could become very sick that they will need a very serious treatment at that to become fine again. And most of the time that sickness might lead to death. They might die at the process. That's why the next effect you see on individual, there is death. They might end up dying because of how far they have affected their system with that drugs they've been feeding on. Otherwise, unemployment. Of course, like we earlier said, nobody will want to employ someone who abuses drugs, because we must understand that people who abuse drugs have very, very unconstant way of behaving. Like we earlier said, they have what we call mood swing. They can be happy right now, and the next few minutes they are hungry, they want to do something crazy. So nobody who has an establishment will want to have such a person around as a worker. So because of that, they become unemployed, and when they are unemployed, they can't cater for themselves. That's why they become very dependent on their relatives, and so on and so forth. We now look at the effect on the family. One is domestic violence. In such family, you start seeing fighting in the house, breaking of bottle, wanting to use that to injure the other person, because such people, they behave very unstable. You wouldn't know when and how they will begin to start behaving very rudely, arrogantly, and so on and so forth. Another one is family breakup. Often a time it can end up in that. Maybe a man is into drugs and the wife can no longer cope with him. The wife will begin to find a way out. If the woman is also into drugs and the man cannot cope with her, the man also will find a way out. So it often a time leads to breakup, and there is no family that will survive when one particular partner in that family is a drug addict. The other one is general family disorder. It will generally affect the entire family, and often a time lead to a situation whereby the family will not be living together in peace, and often a time it could bring embarrassment, the children feeling very bad seeing their father in that situation. So for the wife could also feel very bad seeing the husband in that situation, and then for the man can also feel very bad seeing his wife in that situation. That is one of the effects you can see for those who abuse drugs on their family. They will now look at the effect on the society. One of the effects on the society is that it will increase crime rate. Crime rate in the society will be at the highest, because these people who get involved in abusing drugs also can get involved in committing crime by going out for armed robbery, most especially when they are short of funds and when they need money to buy more drugs and there's no money, so they will find an alternative which can easily become going out to rob. This is all we are going to take in this topic. In our next topic we'll look at another. This is all we're going to take in this topic. In our next class we'll look at another topic. I'll see you in my next class.